So we have Jenny and Dr. Gina here so far. We are expecting a few more, but we are also going to record. So sometimes people just register so they can get the recording, which is just fine. I want to go ahead and get started though, since it is 1 o'clock. So hello, Jenny and Gina, and anybody else who is listening. My name is Merritt. I am, among other things, the lead of Member Connection here at ShiftCo. I'm also I serve as a mentor. I serve as a coach. Do other things too. So, and I am I'm so happy to kick off our Meet the Experts series with Kelly Marshall. Hello, Kelly.
Hi. I didn't know I was the kickoff. This is exciting.
You are the kickoff, yeah. So
Wow, I'm honored.
the idea, well, and I think it's very apropos because of how, I mean, this series was my intention around it was to have people come and connect with people, members and non-members, kind of see what we're all about, really put faces to names and to the, we put a lot of marketing copy and things like that out there. And I just want to make sure that people knew that we're real people out here doing real things. So, and I came to ShiftCo because of you. So that's why I was like, well, Kelly's the perfect person because she sold me on it and,
Awesome.
well, invited me, not sold it. You invited me in. And
No, you were just such a perfect fit. It wasn't even funny. Like it was like you and I talking was so similar to Terry and I talking. It was like, these people have to meet. Yeah.
That's awesome. So, Jenny and Gina, are you all current members or are you?
I just joined probably
Just joined.
Weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. So this is my first, meeting. I met with my mentor, Melissa, and she's awesome. I know her actually. So it's a new relationship we're going to be having.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Jenny, Jenny might be driving, or I know she's off her mic, so she might.
I've joined ShiftCo like since last year, December 2022, but I wouldn't say I'm like always super active because I've went through stuff in my life, but now I'm just trying to like get back into using it a little more.
Yeah, great. Re-engage. Awesome. Well, we all know about stuff in our life, that's for sure. And Jenny, I actually do remember meeting you at another either event or a collab maybe. So that's wonderful. So I wanted to, well, first of all, I would want to invite Kelly to tell about us a little more her, because she's been involved in ShiftCo for a while. She has more history with the organization than I do and has seen it grow and change and evolve over time. And so as we are a conscious business growth platform, I wanted to ask you first, Kelly, what does conscious?
Oh, did I freeze up or is it Merritt? Oh, you might have frozen up there.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Okay, let's try it again. So as someone who has seen ShiftCo change and evolve over the years that you've been invested here, what does conscious business mean to you?
It's so funny because when you were talking a little bit about this, or I'm thinking about people joining, it actually took me right back. When you said Kelly's been a member for longer than you, it made me think about the beginning. Like I joined not really knowing what I was signing up for. There's a point to me going back this far. I thought it was like just a networking group that was Buffalo, because I joined a Buffalo hub, which is where I'm from, in Buffalo, New York. And I met, and it was the beginning of COVID. Terry was going to come to Buffalo and then everything shut down. She wasn't able to come. And we had a Zoom call. And I remember it was the first time I heard conscious entrepreneurship. And I loved the term. Who I had been working with and what I had been doing before, and what I had been calling, what I come to now call conscious entrepreneurship, was purpose-driven businesses. So I think conscious entrepreneurship is purpose-driven people doing something that they love for money. And I believe that their work impacts their clients, and then that ripples out into their clients' families and the communities and ultimately the world. So that's really how I think of conscious entrepreneurship, is really people making profits and changing the world. No big task there, right?
Yeah. Well, and what I'm hearing about that is the intention, right? So it's not just the business, because the business doesn't have consciousness of its own, as far as we know, right? The business is really the people that are driving it, that it's serving. So it's the intention, I think is what I'm hearing you saying, is like it starts with the intention of the people. and then the intention of the service or product, and then how that intention of the service or product impacts the people it serves, right? It touches, and then their
Yep.
families, right? So it's
Yep.
carrying that intention through to the entire journey of the service or product, but starting with the individuals that have the idea, that are implementing, and then people that are receiving and
Right.
carrying on from there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And say again what you just said in the very end. You've put it very concisely. What is the
Where it ripples
You-
out, that part.
yeah? Well, you said it's like purpose-driven people.
People
Yeah.
who do what they love for money, that make money, profit, and then their work creates change for their clients, which ripples out to the families, the community, and ultimately the world.
What
I
they
think
love to
it's-
change the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Which is
So
actually
tell-
one of the things we connected with initially, because that was kind of what your thoughts too, is kind of that change through that type of impact. And that's what resonated so much for me, among many other things that we connected on. That was a big thing for me. And I think that's what you find in ShiftCo is we see that thread in each other. We like recognize that in each other when we talk, and it just draws us all in. And we're just so happy to find like-minded people, that community of like-minded, purpose-driven people.
Yeah.
Looking to change the world through their work.
We're going to take over the world.
In a good way.
So I guess I wanted to ask you about what brought you into this conscious entrepreneur space yourself, because you run your own business, a successful business. And then maybe part two of that question is, as a coach for ShiftCo, as an expert in ShiftCo's world sphere, how do you see other people coming to it? So I think I'll ask you about you first. So you're running your own business, and then as a coach, how are you seeing?
Yeah. Well, how far back should I go? I think that I've been a lifelong entrepreneur. I think that's a big piece of it. And I think that I knew in the 7th grade I wanted to be an accountant. And a big part of that, I think at that time, was because I knew I could make money. Like, I don't know how I knew that in 7th grade, but it was my uncle was an accountant and he did well. That's probably how I knew that. But then I was in corporate and I worked at an investment management company for 8 years, and I like to make money for sure, but there was something missing. And I had this corporate life, and then I had this other path of holistic healing and Reiki training and creativity and all this other stuff that felt like two parallel things. Like they didn't feel like they intertwined. It was like work Kelly and life Kelly. And then I actually had an opportunity to work at a wellness center where I did the books and I did coaching and supported people. And it was like, I could have both these things at the same time, but it was also in somebody else's world that ran it not quite how I would like to. And I had to treat the clients in a way I didn't want to, and manage people in a way it didn't suit me. And so back to entrepreneurship, because I don't fit in a box that doesn't fit me very well for very long. Like it has to kind of align. So I'm like, well, I can do this skill set that I have that other people that are in this wellness, it's not just wellness, but the purpose-driven people, that's not a skill set for everybody there. And my impact can be helping them grow, helping them stay healthy financially so that their work doesn't have to stop. They don't have to go back and get a job. They can grow. And we have a fruit fly in our office today. They can grow and impact more people. And so that was my contribution. And it was that awareness that I can contribute with this skill set I had grown, and just, I guess that's all I would call it, the skill set, but do it with people who understood the energy part and appreciated that part of the conversation. And we could talk about their impact and talk about the energy of money and all those pieces. And that's really what kind of led me to this vision of this business. And it's worked so well. And like every day I have conversations I love. And so then to bring it into ShiftCo, I think people in ShiftCo, there's many people that have a corporate career that sounds somewhere similar. Like it doesn't fit. They've got a great skill set. Their challenge initially is finding a way to bring that skill set into a money-making pursuit that fits them and, is a way to serve people they want to work with. Like there's a challenge to figuring that out, but ultimately they do. And that's what leads them there. And then there's other people who absolutely start out with purpose-driven work. Like they don't necessarily have the same journey to being a conscious entrepreneur. They kind of start in it. It's just kind of a natural fit in their their business, a health coach or, certain things. And so I think it kind of is a few different ways that people enter into it as ShiftCo members. But it's all there. It's always there because they're not attracted to it if there's not some purpose in their business.
And you have such a specific and unique vantage point because you are the launch phase coach. So you get people coming in at the very beginning, right? And those first stages, or maybe they're revamping something.
Yeah.
And what are I didn't prep you with this question, but what are some common threads that you see, if you don't mind speaking to that a little bit?
In the early ones?
Yeah, and come into the launch phase, since that's your expertise.
Well, can I first just start with saying that I think one of the reasons that I'll say with humility, like support the launch phase well, is I hit every bump you could hit in the launch phase myself as I went through. Like Terry loves to use me as an example because I literally, any fulcrum she talks about on any diagram you see, I have lived through and gotten past through launch, and I'm in the different set of fulcrums in the next phase. So I've experienced them all personally, but some of the things, it really depends on what people come into ShiftCo with. So there's some people that haven't really fully flushed out their business concept. So they need to find a way to take this like glimmer of an idea. They know they want to do something with this, but they're not quite sure how to package it. Or a lot of us aren't sure how to price it initially. There's some need to flesh that out, build some confidence around that. So that's certainly an area initially a lot of people go through. And once they get that kind of figured out, and by the way, it's not linear. Sometimes these things you think you got it figured out and then you kind of go back. So none of this is linear. But once they have that part figured out.
Speaking to Jenny's point before, right? It's like, I mean,
yeah.
And Lord knows, I know you know that. I certainly know that myself. Like Terry says business is iterative. Because you're responding to the things that are happening in front of you, right? So it could be growth is iterative. It could also be that maybe you need to contract sometimes, and that's okay too, right?
Well, I think because we're so, I thought thread I see with conscious entrepreneurs is that whole authenticity alignment piece. Like we don't exist for long outside of our authenticity. So if you've built something and it's like, oh, this is the right track, I'm on traction, but it doesn't feel good, then sometimes it's like, okay, I got to go back a little bit and kind of readjust things. And then I can put my foot on the gas. But that's the looping back sometimes. So it's kind of figuring out what they're going to do. And then the next thing is, well, this is great. How do I find clients? And that's a big one. And I've got lots of thoughts on that. But that's kind of where our launch foundation really comes in. It's like getting really a lot of clarity around what makes you different, who you're really targeting, what makes you different, and how do you talk about it with your people that ultimately are looking for a solution that you provide. And so figuring that out can take a little bit. That's also iterative, but it's magic when you get it. Like that's really like the fuel for the fire. And then once you kind of get that figured out, then you got to figure out how to share that with people and how to create, we call it demand generation, but how to get the word out that you understand these people, you understand their problems, you can talk to them in a way that's meaningful to them. And it takes a little bit to figure out what you like to do, face some fears about doing that, because it's all new. It's all new to us in that stage. And it's like, feels like a mountain when you're at the base of it. And then once you get it, then it's just kind of like rinse and repeat, but that demand generation piece is a big part of it and figuring that out. But once those things happen and you kind of are feeling good and you're headed in the right direction, that's when it can just that's when it launches. I mean, to use her wording for it, that's when it launches into the next place. And in that launch phase, the challenges amongst the things I listed can be, I'm doing all this work myself. I got some clients, now I'm delivering the work, but I forgot I'm supposed to be looking for the next client because I'm so busy focusing on the work I'm doing that when I finish up with them, I pick my head up and there's no client there waiting for me because maybe I didn't build that. And then like I'm doing all this myself, and there's kind of a tipping point where you don't have enough money yet to get support unless you've got other resources. So your business, it's like this, that's the fulcrum thing, or the it's cash flow management for my nerdy accounting side, but it's that fulcrum of like, do I invest before I'm ready to know and trust that I'm going to get those clients, or do I get the clients, have to work a little harder than I might want to, but get through that until I can hand it off to somebody? And there's benefits and drawbacks to both. both options, but that's kind of those fulcrums. And like I said, I hit every single one of those that I just shared and lived just to see the other side of it. So yeah, that's, I think, a lot of what people run into in launch. Did that answer that question?
Yes, and actually they run into it over and over again is the thing that I think
Yeah.
that is something to really keep in mind, is that it happens in launch and it feels like that boulder uphill, especially in launch, because it is that 0 to 10K mark in per month. And so we're like, oh my gosh, is this thing going to work? Maybe I'm trying to get myself out of a job that I don't like, or I'm trying to prove my concept, or I'm just trying to prove it to myself that I can do it. I'm passionate about it, but it feels like a mess sometimes. Right. And it feels so hard that launch phase. And then we get to the phase, we're like, all right, I got to the 10K months or whatever it is that our goal is. And you think you got into the next phase, and all of a sudden a whole new set of problems show up.
But they're better. It's a little easier. That set of problems is a little easier because you
Well,
have an opportunity to hire people.
I might push back on that a little bit, because it depends on what you identify, how you identify as easy.
Yeah, true.
I have clients in my own practice, my private practice, who are, highly successful from a financial standpoint. And man, the hardest thing in the world for them is to let go.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the making money part was easy for them, but the letting go part, forget it.
Right. So then you get stuck. Yeah.
And then they're stuck at a certain level, which is like, oh my God, they're making $5 million a year. That's incredible. But they're like, but I'm only making this much money and I'm totally stuck. Right. They're stressed out. I want to pause for a moment because I have many more questions for you, but I wanted to ask Jenny and Dr. Gina if either one of you have questions for Kelly about what we've talked about so far, or if anything that you have regarding your business but you think that might apply to other people. I'd be happy, we're happy to entertain those questions too. And if not, it's okay. We can just keep talking. But.
Well, definitely. I feel like Shipco may be the right thing for me. I've struggled with finding a niche. I'm a physical therapist of like what is the right thing. And just even talking to my coach Melissa, just first session, people that I know, they do like just the knee. I'm the knee specialist. I'm the shoulder lady, and to just deal with one body part is not what I like. And so it was such a struggle for years. And now I'm figuring out it could not be the body part, it could be a patient type, like, busy mothers who don't have time to go out and do physical therapy, and I come to their house, or just something like that. And that it took a lot of the stress off of like, wow, that could be my thing. Or I could find a thing that's not just tied to a knee or something, because it's just such a struggle. And I know I have to not see everyone. But yeah, it's definitely already eye-opening in what I could possibly do.
Well, it sounds like what you're talking about too, Gina, is kind of what Kelly was talking about before, that through line of intention. And that's all about relationship, right? So you're talking about building relationships with people who are in a certain, what we call like psychographic, right? So if they're busy moms who are in pain because they've been carrying their kids around all day, and their knees are given out or their shoulders are given out, but you can connect with those people because you relate on some level, or because it's important to you that's about relationship that you're building, rather than you're not building a relationship with knees, right? Yeah.
And I think that like you lit up when you shared that. You're like, I don't want to work with one body part, but when you started sharing the story of the person that was struggling like that you even leaned in and everything. And so if you think about that and you're speaking to the world out there into like the abyss of social media or something like that, or, you want to get invited into certain circles of people. If you're just like, I'm here, I'm available for everybody, I can help you with all of your physical therapy needs, then nobody really hears you. But if you start to speak to the things that matter to those women that matter to you, or those people that matter to you, that's a game changer. Because now they like, oh, she's talking about me. Oh, she gets what I'm dealing with. Maybe she's the one for me. And they start paying attention to what you see. And then when they're ready to make that decision to buy, or, finally get that help, you're right there. You're top of mind for them because they know you understand them and they see you as a solution. So that's the whole, that is the summary of Launch Foundation in a nutshell. And you just have like uncovered a huge piece of that that's going to really support that for you. And that willingness to narrow down a little is actually what's going to help you stand out so much more.
I think it's something it's so important to understand too. And it sounds like Gina, you're just on the, you've just kind of opened this door for yourself. When I started my practice too, my husband was like, well, can't you just coach anybody? I'm like, well, I can, but like, I mean, sure, but do I want to, number one? And am I going to be effective if I'm coaching somebody who I don't really understand their context in some sort of way, but maybe or maybe not. But more importantly, it's not that you're excluding other people when you're specifying your message. You're not saying I won't work with this type. I mean, maybe in your mind you're saying I'd really prefer not to work with this type. You know, maybe I really don't like feet, right? Like some manicurists don't like doing pedicures, right? That's okay. But and then you call yourself a manicure specialist and you say, no, I only do manicures. But if you are also, you know, if you're good at knees, but you're also good at shoulders and you're also good at wrists and you're also good at, you know, what other things, and you would entertain that just because you're saying I want to, and I know I'm riffing on what you said, Gina, so I'm not putting words in your mouth, I'm just making stuff up here. But if I'm working with busy moms who are, her knees are sore because, or they're recovering from surgery because they have a certain injury about carrying their kids around or whatever it is, it doesn't mean that other people who don't have other injuries or needs can't come to you. It just means that that's how you get the word out about what you want to do and how you attract people who are going to really benefit from what you have, because they're just, Kelly mentioned about how you leaned in, Gina, when you're talking about it. Kelly also leaned in when she was playing the responder, right? She was like, ooh, that's me. So that's what it's about. It's about making that connection. And someone else might go, you know, in that old joke about when Harry met Sally and the lady in the diner says, I'll have what she's having. Like, oh, I see somebody successful over there. Ooh, I want success too. I want to feel better too. Maybe Dr. Gina would help with me, you know?
Yeah,
Kelly,
it was mind-blowing to me when you used the words building relationships as something as what I'm looking for. It like I know, but like just hearing that, it's like, wow, that's what it is. It's not just a part of something.
Yeah. It's tricky too when we're out talking to the social media abyss and we're like, I'm building a relationship with people I don't know and speaking into the dark, you know, but really that's where that specificity comes in so handy, because we can like, if I can actually see the person in my mind, whether it's a real person or someone I've created based on, or it's an amalgamation of people that I know or I've treated or whatever, it makes it more fun for us too. Like, oh, I'm actually talking to somebody. Yeah. So I'm sorry, Kelly, are you going to say something?
Can I just, I'm going to switch gears actually and just share an example. And I don't know if we've talked about this, but Merritt and I met, I think I cold messaged you.
You totally did on Facebook. Yeah.
Which is not my favorite thing to do, but I was in a phase where I was doing that. I cold messaged her. We happen to have Buffalo in common. She used to live in my town. So I think that was one of the things that like connected back. We had a phone call. I cried on our first phone call. Like we connected so deep immediately. We stayed in touch. I coached in her program. She's, you know, we've had Shift Co in common. It's been this incredible thing that started with a cold DM. That's like the most impersonal thing in Facebook, but it drew us together. And like, this is, I hope, a lifelong friendship and colleagues that have happened from that. So that just kind of hit me as we were talking about this, like that was all about, and a part of it is I love to work with purposeful coaches. And she had things in her profile that I was like, this woman's amazing. I need to connect with her. And that's what started it all. So yeah, just felt like a fun story to share. I really didn't plan on that one, but
yeah, I love it.
I did cry on our first call.
I think too that what was effective about that from my end when you sent the cold DM, because some of us get hundreds of these a week on many platforms, and something that was so interesting about when you reached out is that very thing. You mentioned authenticity earlier. I get many people who have VAs who are, I'm representing this person, or they're pretending to be that person. You can kind of feel. Yeah. I mean, nothing against VAs, because I think VAs are awesome and I have one and I adore her and I really value her. She doesn't do that for me because I don't feel good about it. She doesn't. But there's something about when you reached out, I knew it was you just because I just feel it. I could tell by the way you were talking to me. I looked at your profile. I could tell that you were genuine, and we had some common language, and we had a common location. Although when I first looked at your profile, I was like, I must know somebody because she's speaking my language. We must have somebody in common. We didn't have a person in common.
That's interesting.
But we had this connection. And that's exactly what we're talking about. Yeah.
Fun.
And it will all
Never go
open
there.
up from there.
That's right.
And I think you still do you have a couple clients that are from that program that you coached in with me, or did you have a couple clients still?
I've talked to some of them about that, and I've done coaching with them. I don't have any current clients, but
A
I
couple
think
that
it's relationship building, and it's people that pop off of those relationships and become clients down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we are talking this quarter and our themes this month about overwhelm and gratitude. And when we were putting these things together, it was very purposeful that because so many people get overwhelmed in this process you were just talking about, especially in this launch phase. Do we hire? Do we not hire? Do we invest? Do we, put how much risk do we take on? How can we trust other people if we're not really sure we're trusting ourselves yet in the business? All of that stuff. And then gratitude pairing with that, like for the thinking behind that from our perspective was, as we were developing the themes, was that just from a neuroscience standpoint, we can't hold those two. They're two separate processes, neuroscience wise, brain wise. Like overwhelm is sort of a short circuiting, like everything going at once, all the noise. And gratitude is a very specific focal point where it calms the chatter. It's a meditative practice, the gratitude thing. So they're like counterpoints, but they're really meant for each other. So from that, but hearing overwhelm and gratitude as a theme, how does that strike you, Kelly, as a coach? And
Yeah, I love how you put it. That helps me think about it even differently. I hate to say this, but I do believe that overwhelm is just part of the deal that comes with business. I'd like to say it's only the launch phase, but I think that it often continues.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that it's paralyzing, and it's the thing that can keep people in inaction. But when I think about those two things together, how I think of gratitude is it's perspective shifting. Like, it's just the thing that can give you some space so that you can kind of get real about some things. So I'll give an example of that. I had a client recently who is in the past had exceptional business. This is a personal client. She's not even a shift coer, but she's same profile, same type of person. And she's had an exceptional business, and she has been struggling lately. She shifted her product offers that she's doing. Some things aren't working, and it's overwhelming her. And it's got her to a place. I told her on a call, I'm like, you're going from everything's fine to you're going to be homeless in this conversation.
Yeah.
And that's how her nervous system, that's what it's doing to her. And her mind, when she's spiraling in overwhelm, I'm going to lose the house. I'm going to lose the kids, everything. I'm like, you're not even close to that. There are people who that might be something that's closer to their reality. She is not one of those people. And so I just challenged her on that and went into gratitude and had her get real with some things and be grateful for it. And it wasn't an hour later that she texted me and she's like, you're so right. This was such a fear thing that led me to overwhelm. I'm totally fine. And it just like neutralized it for her. And if she stayed in that overwhelm, what kind of action would she take?
Yeah.
Nothing. If you're overwhelmed, you're not checking things off your to-do list. You're not connecting with clients, good God, or prospective clients. Like, you're in fear, you're stuck, you don't know what action's right. It's challenging. And so having a practice like gratitude, it's one of a few you could choose, but I think it's a really great one because of that perspective shifting. Having something like that can pull you out of that, or having people you could reach to that can help remind you to do that, to pull you out of it, can just clear the way of that, get you back into kind of a different frame of mind, a calmer frame of mind. And then you can take all those actions, you can move right into that. So I love that they were paired together. I didn't know the intentionality behind that, but I think that's super smart. And I would love to almost anchor them together so that if you're suffering with overwhelm, it's like, oh, that's right. I just need to breathe through it, clear it, go into gratitude. Yeah. And having that as a practice. And that does come from practicing it. Like, it's not always like you hear it once and you do it. You kind of have to live it a little bit, of like bringing gratitude into your daily life so that it becomes your automatic, I
think it's related a lot to what the prosperity challenge it tends to. It's a slightly different, well, it's a deeper process, and they go in that prosperity challenge. They go through a few different processes that you can, but it's a similar kind of idea. And this morning I was actually on a webinar that was all about the neuroscience of coaching and neuroscience of intuition, which I mean, talk about nerding out. Like I nerd out on that.
I love it.
It's super. I should share that with you too. Actually, you probably really enjoy it.
Yeah.
But one of the things they said on it was Ann Betts, who is the woman who had sit
Okay,
on this.
I found this on the web for Bud. Check it out.
My Siri thought I was talking to him.
Funny.
So anyway, Ann Betts. And first of all, she says intuition is our human birthright, which I love. But she also talked about a colleague that had, and this is a paraphrase, but a colleague that had given her a nugget of information, and it wasn't reading here. Reframing is one of the most important skills to help reduce stress and to have a more fulfilling and regulated life.
Yeah.
So what you're talking about, right, is that when you get to that overwhelmed place, like if we can just shift the perspective, we can reframe what we're overwhelmed about into something that we're grateful for, or even that we can, even if that's too hard, we can detach it and say, yes, this is overwhelming, but I'm really grateful for this.
Yeah.
Like, yes, my clients are, my needs are overwhelming today, or my team's overwhelming today, but boy, am I super grateful for this mug and this matcha in it that I get to have every day. It just changes. It seems silly, right? Like I just had Gina smile. I think it seems silly, but it really does help us regulate.
Yeah.
And from that place, we can hear our intuitive genius more clearly. We can make sounder decisions. That's essentially what my whole business is predicated upon, is learning how to regulate yourself so that you can make better decisions and lead more effectively. So I love that you put it that way, of like the shift of the perspective, because I just heard that this morning and I thought, oh, that's so good. And it's not just regulated life or reduced stress, it's more fulfilling, because from that place, when we make better decisions for ourselves, when we're listening to our intuitive sense more clearly and acting on it more clearly as business leaders, which we all are. As soon as you start a business, you're a leader no matter what, actually. But because you're leading the people who are you're serving, you're leading yourself, you're leading the people who you are interacting with at the grocery store, right? We're leading each other right now in these conversations. So if you are in a place where you're feeling whole, then you're going to make better decisions, and you're going to enjoy those decisions more and the benefits from it.
And I would say also you're going to attract more aligned people. You're going to attract more of what you want. You're kind of in a place where you're attracting more of the same, people that are coming to you with that. So I think that's really important.
And I'd like to share a little bit of a perspective shift on the attracting too, because I've heard it. I mean, obviously we know a lot about the law of attraction. Maybe not everybody does, but you and I have talked a lot about that. And there's a different lens on that, which is the law of resonance. And to me, that feels so good, because it's not that we are just attracting things that we didn't attract before. It is that we are more available to those things that were available to us before. We weren't resonating with them because we were over here and resonating with this piece of it. We weren't seeing it.
Yeah.
But we can actually resonate with calm, with success, with abundance, with connection. If we're resonating there, boy, then we're open to it. We can see it everywhere. It's available to us. We're just not seeing it.
Okay, I got one more thing on that one. This is what we do. We can't help ourselves. So let's say somebody's spiraling in overwhelm and an opportunity comes up. It's the opportunity that's available to them. And if I'm spiraling in overwhelm, I can't handle that. Like I'm going to just duck from that, But if I've kind of calmed down, practice gratitude, I'm going to see that in a whole different way. So that's how I just interpreted what you said and related it to overwhelm. That just makes so much sense to me.
I saw a meme the other day that said something to the effect of, opportunity doesn't knock. Opportunity is there. You knock. Mm-hmm. You're knocking at the opportunity. I
think Gina had something too.
You had something too?
I questioned attending this call because I was overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. But it's like, well, this is typically of what's been happening in my life. I've been entering into things, and then you say something or somebody says something that I needed to hear.
Because you're open to that.
A lot of resonance right there. Yeah. Yeah, it's exactly, because you're open. You made a conscious choice to shift your mindset a little enough so that you could show up here today. And so you
Yeah.
get here this one year. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Jenny,
cool.
I see that you're muted, so I'm not gonna pick on you at all, but just know that if you want to interject, feel free to do that anytime, okay?
Actually, I have something to
Great.
say.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, like I guess like I just want to recap what I've been seeing by my own journey so far. Like I know I always have been interested in art and I'm really talented at it and stuff. But boy, it was just really a struggle to find a niche, and at times it felt like whatever I'm good at it doesn't neatly fit into like the current job market needs whatsoever. And then when I first joined Shiftco, I knew in my heart there is something I have a purpose, but it was still a struggle to figure things out and like really properly conceptualize them because again, I have like stuff going on in my life and I've been told that, oh, why don't you just find a job first and everything because you're not making money right away and stuff. But now I'm getting to the point where it's okay to like take things slow and make mistakes along the way and be flexible and adapt when necessary because again entrepreneurship is never going to be that smooth sailing and that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge moment of acceptance for you, Jenny, because I think, I mean, and that it's really tough to be okay with the ups and downs. It's okay. It's really tough to be okay with it's not working the way I want it to work. I thought I was going to be able to do it this way, and I can't do it that way because it didn't work out. So I'm not going to do it that way. And often in Shiftco, we talk about not taking things like looking at the data, looking at the processes, and not taking them personally. Like if I'm putting something out there, it's not working. It's not because I'm bad. It's because for whatever reason, the language that I'm using isn't quite resonating with the people that I want to resonate with. So I just need to change the language, or I might need to change the approach, or, maybe I have an offer and I'm not thinking of it in terms of how the buyer needs to hear it. I'm thinking in terms of how I want to say it, but the buyer needs to hear it differently. It's not necessarily change the essence of the offer. I just might need to change how I'm approaching it so I can understand from their perspective. So all of those tweaks, and I mean, there seems like endless sometimes. But I think what I want to go back to is that I heard you say, Jenny, that like I'm becoming okay with it, I'm becoming more comfortable with it. And that is huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Because that's a perspective shift that helps you regulate yourself. It takes you out of the overwhelm, out of the panic, and says, okay, you know what? This is just the journey I'm on, and I'm going to keep going because this is what I want to do. Yeah.
And what I heard too is that you're kind of picking at it a little bit, like you're working on it. You're making progress towards it, even if it's slower than maybe you envisioned at the beginning or somebody else thinks it should be, which should never factor in because nobody knows it like you. But
it often does,
making, right. If you're making progress, you're making progress. If you abandon it because it feels like it's going to be too long, it's no progress. So that's what I also heard too, and I think is really promising, is that you're working towards that dream, even if it's at a different pace than those other things that you've thought or that somebody else prescribed or whatever. Any progress is progress, in my opinion, and important.
I think that regulation piece too, and acceptance around that is really key, because Jenny, when you said, you're hearing from other people, like you should just get a job or whatever, like that's very common in the work we do. And it's also the voice in our own head, right? Should I just, I've had clients say, I would just like to be a toll collector. Can I just be a toll collector? Like, I don't have to think about it. I just would like to just sit there all day and do the thing. And there doesn't have to be any presence there. Because it's really hard work, what we're doing. It may not be hard physical labor. Sometimes it might be, but it's very hard self-work. There's an author named Gay Hendricks. He wrote a book called The Big Leap, and he talks about business being a spiritual journey. Because if we're entrepreneurs, we're always looking at ourselves if we're doing it well. How can
Probably
I be better?
my favorite thing about entrepreneurship is that it's a spiritual journey and a personal development journey.
Yeah.
So I love that. I just want to jump in. I'm sorry, but I want to say too, like for people listening, and maybe Jenny for you, but for other people listening, sometimes it's okay to get a job too, though. Like sometimes it's okay to take the pressure off of like the business having to create your sustainability in that moment, if it's not able to do that right away, and do something either part-time or full-time that leaves you some energy left to still make those small incremental steps towards what you want. So that's sometimes what would be recommended, just to take the pressure off and give yourself the creative space then. Because when you're creating under that pressure, like if next week's dinner depends on this and it's a difficult path to that money, then taking the pressure off can sometimes be the best thing. And then all of a sudden it can have some space and kind of soar a little bit more. So it's a balance for sure. And it's no one right decision for anybody, but sometimes that's the best thing, to take the pressure.
I have a little more to say.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I feel like just recently, like probably 1 or 2 weeks ago, I've been trying to reclaim control of my life and actually be able to do things like set proper boundaries and be able to do things like at my own pace. Because like when I'm forced into something that just doesn't work for me, it doesn't feel right, and it just feels like pressuring and overwhelming to me.
Yeah. Well, it's super important as a business owner, as a human, to be able to have the sense of that you can direct your life and your energy and your intention, right? I mean, that's part of being an actualized person. And so I want to commend you for that, because it's no easy feat, especially if we've been in a pattern or many patterns where that hasn't been the case. So that takes a lot of courage, what you're doing, Jenny, and I really commend you for that. It's wonderful. And it's not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So I think I'd like to hear maybe a couple of success stories, Kelly. If we jump around a little bit, we have this. One of the unique things about ShiftCo is that we have data around how our processes work or don't work. And we have this great new statistic where it's 85% or 84.5%, I think, of our members have doubled their income during their time at ShiftCo by growing their conscious business. And we have a retention rate in our membership of like 97 or 98%, depending on the quarter we measure, which is pretty outstanding. Like, it's highly unique. So I would love to hear from your perspective as a coach in ShiftCo some success story that you'd like to share that speak to those, like how come we're so successful at this? What does it look like?
Well, I'll start with me.
Yay.
Just being silly, but I mean, I'm so grateful for ShiftCo and the support I've had since I joined ShiftCo. I'd had my business for almost 2 years before I joined ShiftCo, and I was figuring some things out, and I kind of find my way to 4,000, but not always 4,000 per month, not always consistently when I joined. And I was able to double that in 20 to 2021, and then double it again into 2022. And then it kind of bounced around in there, and I wasn't kind of growing anything beyond that consistently this year. And that speaks to another fulcrum of, complicated, like the challenges and the business getting more complicated. Like there's more pieces that have to move. And so it's like a bigger ship you have to turn instead of, a nimble little boat kind of thing. And so we plateaued a little bit this year, but then my husband joined the business, which is a big move. And he's helping me with what he's gifted with really kind of with the help of Terry's roadmap, like a business simple and like getting efficient and just doing a bunch of systems in the business so that we're set to scale. And I have no doubt that in the next year, we'll be into to build the next level. We're in shape now and into build and beyond. And I don't know how I would have navigated a lot of that without ShiftCo. And one of the things for me, there's so many pieces, but one of the things that really helped me was knowing that when I hit those fulcrums, that was just normal. Like the minute, like a lot of my coaching was with Terry, because it was the beginning. She was the only coach in the very beginning, but all the coaches, a lot of us have lived this, and we can speak to it from our own experiences. This is normal. It's just what you go through. It's not like you failed. And so it's this hard because you failed. It's just the next step. And this is a path forward. And then you just kind of walk that path. But without somebody saying that to you, it feels like, oh, I can't ever get past this. How am I going to do it? And left to your own devices and that overwhelm, you can stay stuck or shrink back. And so I really credit that as being what kept me going forward, even in a kind of a time where we were just stabilizing, we were just kind of really building that foundation so that we could then go to the next level. So I just wanted to humbly share that, because it's been very exciting. And I exceeded my expectations. And a lot of that was also the belief that the coaches had in me and what they saw before I even saw that was possible. So I credit that. And the numbers that are doubling and things like that, they're very real. I see the actual numbers. Several of the shift coers are my bookkeeping clients. So I see the numbers and I can attest to that. And so I don't want to just tell stories of people doubling the revenue, except it does. But I thought I would share that, it's really cool to me when people who decided they want to share through thought leadership are getting speaker gigs that are, 4 figures. Or like one of my clients who's a shift coer, she had a $12,000 payout last year for a speaking gig that she had. I mean, that's just life-changing, to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And I think even at the simpler level than that, like that all is great. But what I love almost most is that when coaches, because a lot of coaching, and there'll be a lot of coaches that listen to this, the getting client, I guess every business owner, they don't know where their next client is coming from in the launch phase of business. And to see them get to a place where that's not a fear anymore. It's like they're just doing the activities they know that they like and that work for them. And then the next client is there. And it's kind of like you build that machine where it's just consistent. That feels like the weight of the world comes off your shoulders. And I can speak from my personal experience of where, like, in the beginning, I didn't even know how do I create content? I hate this. I spent hours, I paid so much money to get help with content because it felt like the mountain.
Yeah.
And then at some point, it just clicked and it became easy. That's the easiest part of my business. It happens on automatic and it leads to me having speaker engagements and opportunities and clients coming in. And that's what happens for a lot of ShiftCo people. So the revenue numbers happen from those things becoming easy and becoming, your differentiation, becoming really speaking to your buyers and things like that. Once those things become easy, the revenue comes. So
when it becomes easy, it becomes easier.
yeah.
And so when you see people kind of make that shift and that the penny drops, as it were, for people, what do you think it becomes true for them? Like, I mean, is it that they have a moment of clarity where they, oh, I understand now that I didn't something to understand before? Or is it just several moments in a row where they kind of have carved out, like they've been chiseling away at the thing, and then finally say, oh, now I've chiseled away enough where I kind of see, like, I think about, was it Michelangelo who said, there isn't I don't like create the sculpture, I discover it, right? Like he's finding sculpture in the stone. Like I kind of think of it that way. Like I'm chiseling away and I'm trying to find the thing that's going to help my business grow and help me serve more people, but I'm not creating it, I'm discovering it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. That's true. Like, because you're developing your thought leadership as you go, you're seeing what works with your clients. You're building up your reputation and kind of people are aware of you. And so it's all those things of like discovering, evolving, building. And I think in that time, like it does feel like you're maybe clawing away at something or climbing that mountain. And I don't even think it's like, at first you realize that it's not like you've stopped doing the activities because you're just doing them. It's just really that it feels easier. I think that's the only way I can describe it, is like what felt like work all of a sudden doesn't. It's still, you still have to be committed, you have to be consistent, there's things, but it's not a chore anymore. It's just a thing you do. And then you're on to other things. It's created room for other things. But it's like for me, and if I can think of it, things that my clients have gone through, it's like, oh, I got that, that's how it feels. And it's like the weight came off, the heaviness of what you were doing kind of comes off, is how I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jenny or Gina, do you have any other questions? We're kind of wrapping up our time here. So I wanted to see if there's any other questions that you had, or did you want to know more about ShiftCo or know more about what Kelly does in launch or what I do in other aspects of what I do and all the things that I do.
Yeah, I'd be interested in hearing more about, the different parts of launch and, yeah, your coaching, for both of you, just because I just don't know,
Yeah, sure. Great. Cool. Kelly, do you want to speak to that? The different
Yeah.
parts of launch?
I'll speak, I think, specific, not really specific to you, Gina, but just because you mentioned that you met with Melissa the other day. The goal of that, I'm assuming you did your mapping and you met with your mentor, and then through that, and maybe she'll involve some of the other coaches, they'll communicate a plan with you of like, this is where we really think you should start. So for some people that might be foundation or formation if they really don't have some of their business parts figured out. But if you've got that, it sounds, my gut is that you've already got some of that figured out. So you would probably go into launch foundation, which is where you really fine tune that, the purpose and your ideal target client. And then you go into that differentiation we talked, which is really about you figuring out what's different with you for you and learning how your particular client talks about their needs that they have, or would talk about, or would even look for a solution for their problem. Then when you get beyond that, you're doing the demand generation where you're learning, well, then that's great. I know that I'm starting to talk about ways that they'll hear me. I've got to put it in places they'll find me, or I've got to be in places they'll find me. And so you talk about what kind of activities would be good for you. And that's really creates that foundation for you to start going out there and experimenting and implementing things and meeting with people and getting feedback. And then based on how that goes, you'll probably meet with your mentor again. You can meet with myself as a phase coach, or Terry, it depends who you're assigned to. One of us would be your phase coach, and you get that opportunity to meet with us either along the way if you need some support, or in between foundation and whatever's next. And we can help fine tune any little things that are going on, or we can get you into the next pathway that makes sense for you to continue your business growth. And so that's kind of how that works. The mentor and you are really there to guide where you're going to go. You go into some of the coaching, you experience that, you get to work with your mentor and or phase coach in between things, and just make sure you're on the right track. So we continue to support you in the way that you need it, and in a way that helps you to continue to meet your goals. Did that answer that?
Yeah, it does. I mean, like already she goes down like, because like I logged on right on time, and like I didn't have my pen and paper. I'm like, oh no, I need my pen and paper, but it's just like I don't need it. This is something that we're just exploring and talking about, and I definitely didn't even realize I was going to get some other help other than this is the business, do this,
Yeah.
and that's so exciting.
There's so much more. We didn't even talk about everything. Like it would be overwhelming to go through everything, but that's where, like, that's why your mentor is there and the phase coach is there to make sure you aren't trying to do all of it, because that would put you in overwhelm. It really is there to like, this is what you need. We've seen this a million times. This is how we can help you right now. Then you implement that, and then you might hit one of those fulcrums, and then it's like, okay, let's help you through that. This is what you need. And it's brilliant how it's been designed, because the experience is there and the curriculum's been built to help anybody through those things that are going to come up. And if it's not really there, which is not often, we have phase coaching to get you through it, or mentor support to get you through it. So there's
a passion pivot, there's so many different, if something isn't feeling like it's fitting you right, then we can kind of work with the fit of your business, or we can work with your client. All these things.
But you don't have to figure it out. Your mentors can help you with that. Like, you're never alone to be like, well, what next? That's one of the brilliant pieces of it, is somebody's there to guide you.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, one thing I want to mention too, that you and I were on a team meeting call a few weeks ago, and we talked about the importance of knowing your numbers and being familiar with your numbers and being happy with your numbers. What I mean, I don't mean happy necessarily like you're like, yeah, I'm thrilled, this is the way I want it, but I mean that you're able to communicate about your numbers, that you feel safe doing that you feel like you know what you're talking about. That is, that you have a sense of how your numbers are landing. Because we do, our phases are based on what your revenue is on a month. And we're finding people are still really hesitant about that. There's maybe shame or fear, or I don't want to share because I don't, I'm embarrassed, whatever. And so I think one thing I want to make sure that we're talking about just briefly today is embracing the numbers, right? Embracing your own, whether it's where you want it to be or not. I mean, you just very, very gently, very eloquently say I started with 4,000 a month. I doubled that and then I doubled that. Like, so we can do quick math. You don't have to tell us all the numbers, but like, oh, okay, great. Wow. Now I know where she is. That's really impressive in a couple of years that you did that or less. So how awesome would it feel for somebody who's listening, or for Jenny or for Gina, to like listen to that and go, and for me, it's inspiring to say, oh my gosh, like this is, you just go through these processes and this is where you can go if you put in the work and you keep the faith and you keep at it and keep chiseling away. So I just wanted to put that out there because I thought you made that point at a meeting a couple weeks ago about how it's just really important.
We were kind of being really sensitive, like, well, can I ask people their numbers? And I do this all day, every day. So I'm like a doctor. You could strip down naked, but it's with your numbers. You know, the doctors are used to seeing those things.
Yeah.
I'm seeing the numbers, and I will tell you that the number one thing that will keep somebody stuck for sure, even if they grow their revenue, it still keeps them stuck financially, personally, is shame with your numbers. Inability to face them, fear of judgment, shame. And I'm going to make this about my industry, and I'm sorry to do this, but like one of the things I think historically in my industry is what people imagine as like an accountant, or if you want to call it your dad's CPA or something like that. He's not the guy you want to get naked in front of to show your numbers to. You want to find the person that's safe for you to share. And I can promise you there's nobody in ShiftGo that, first of all, that hasn't, seen things themselves, gone through it themselves. But there's nobody in the ShiftGo coaching mentor world that's going to judge anybody for those numbers. Right. So it is 100% safe to share, because our goal, I don't know if it's our number one goal, but it's one of our top goals, is to help you grow. I mean, we care about you as a person. There's a lot of things we care about in addition to your business growing. But if we don't help your business grow, if we don't help you meet your goals, we're not meeting our goals. So we take that very seriously. So we can't help you if we don't know what the problem is. And if people are unwilling to share that part, or it's not even that, it's usually that they're unwilling to face it themselves, then that's forever going to be an issue. I think people will think, well, I'll learn about that when my numbers get bigger, or when it's a bigger problem to deal with. But when you start, when things are earlier on, and get comfortable there and let it grow, then you're building your knowledge and building that strength for yourself as a business owner. Because I imagine if you picture yourself in the end result of where you really want your business to go, and if you think about that person that's running that business, I bet you that person looks at their numbers, because they're not building this big business without looking at them. So,
although you'd be surprised.
Well, maybe they didn't learn along the way.
You probably wouldn't.
Maybe they didn't learn long. Yeah. But the ability to face that now is going to make that part of your business so much more successful, and you get to learn with it instead of trying to jump in too late. Now it's that much more to learn, is my 2 cents on it. So ability to trust yourself with your numbers is related to self-worth, which is also relates to our pricing, which relates to just trickles into everything.
And also related to how you build relationships with your clients and potential clients.
Yep.
And that's not something you can just flip a switch. It's something that you cultivate, because it didn't come to, for those of us who struggle with being averse or have some shame or fear or guilt or whatever it is, uncertainty and doubt around numbers, around, our efficacy or our ability, or I don't understand, I'm not a math person, whatever that is, like that didn't start overnight. That's been patterned for years and years and years. And so it takes time to repattern that into something more empowering and more fulfilling for you. So again, back to Jenny's point, accepting, like, it's okay where I am now, and I'm going to keep growing and growing. We have 1 minute left, Kelly, and I asked you to think about, before we came here, about one kind of goal and nugget that you like to share. So I would love you to drop that. I
did give a little preview of that, where I was talking about when you picture that end goal. And so I would challenge you to like picture that end result for yourself. Like, what would I love this business to be? What would I love for it to get to? And then create a vision of that, and think about who you are being when that business is what that end result is. That business is the one, then your vision. And then think, how am I not being her now? How am I not being that now? Because that gap is the thing that always keeps that vision in the future. And your ability to shrink that gap brings that vision closer to your current reality. So that's my golden nugget.
That's beautiful. And again, I'll speak up to the prosperity challenge there too. That's something that can help you with that,
Yeah.
which is a program we have here at ShiftCo. It is 2:00. Jenny and Gina, thank you so much for joining us live. For those of you who are joining the recording, we really thank you. I'm so grateful for that. We're going to have bits and pieces of that. I think this go out and so other people can benefit from it. If you want to know more about ShiftCo, if you are not a member and would like to know more about becoming a member, or if you are a member and would like to know more about how to maximize your membership and grow and double that revenue and then double it again and then double it again, like Kelly has, unlike so many other of our members have, please, you can reach out to me. My name is Merritt. Again, it's let's grow at shiftco.global, and or you can reach out to any number of people through the website at shiftco.global. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Kelly, for being our inaugural expert that we started this series on. We'll have one, at least one a quarter, if not more than that. I'm going to try to once every couple of months, but at least one a quarter, and we'll have another expert next time to answer your questions and share their wisdom. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it, everybody. Have a great
Bye.
day. Bye.
Bye.